All right. So, as promised, this is the second stream. I'm doing two separate streams. This is the second stream of the streams that I'm supposed to be doing with you guys. And this second stream is all about Free Palestine on this topic, and also on, I guess, the upcoming elections as well, and my views on it. So, first of all, this stream, if you like what you're seeing, you can like, share, subscribe. You can also donate via PayPal. The link is in the description. This stream is sponsored by LIVE Products. LIVE Products, what you're seeing in front of you. We're live now. And if you use these products, don't forget, you should always be living now. You have to take life in real time. You know what I'm saying? Live each day, every second. Live your life. Life products involve cleaning agents as well as it involves drinks. If you're in the Trinidad and Tobago area, you can order these drinks. You have the flavors orange, Morby, grapefruit, fruit punch, and sorrow. You also have cleaning agents like the disinfectant. We have fabric softener, we have liquid detergent, and we have dishwashing liquid. Live products. Live now. We're live now. We're going to get into now the stuff that we want to talk about. We'll start off with the fact that in Israel, American citizens are being attacked by Israeli settlers in the West Bank. And here's a perfect example here. Suleiman Ahmed, he's talking about this. We also see that China says that the United States days of bullying are coming to an end, which is very important. This is not so important, but we're still going to talk about it, that Donald Trump is considering BlackRock CEO Larry Fink for the Treasury Secretary. Larry Fink, as you know, and BlackRock are involved in mercenary activities overseas and technologies, also spying equipment, that kind of thing. So it's very controversial, and the fact that BlackRock is even assisting Israel is also very controversial. And in line with the grounds, we're just talking some news first. In line with the grounds of what happened to the American citizen, I'm about to play it for you guys right now. She was attacked. This American citizen was trying to protect the Palestinians who are constantly harassed by the settlers. In this case, the settlers this time attacked. There was no Palestinians with them, actually. It was just the Americans here who are trying to be peacekeeping, and the settlers attacked them. So here it is. All recorded on tape. Okay, this is an American citizen that was attacked. This is Chuck Fleischman. He is I don't know if he's a senator or congressman. This is what he had to say. He's on record of saying this, and I don't think he's going to be happy about this because he's going to be on the wrong side of history when all is said and done. Listen to this.
Israel will stay your ally even though they commit genocide.
You can tell the Palestinians, I will never support the Anti.
Why do you support the genocide and all of the war crimes and collective punishment? Are you concerned about all the children?
Let me make it clear. Let me make it clear. Israel is our ally, will always be our ally.
Even if they commit war
And they are not
crimes,
guilty of genocide, and I will support Israel forever.
You will
So Israel will stay your ally even though they commit
Israel will be
genocide.
my-
Even
That's your term.
Even
Can
when
you
they kill
explain-
That is your term.
even when they kill 30,000
What
kids.
they
That is a
did to the
statistic.
Israeli
That's a
people
statistic.
on October. Let me tell you a statistic.
Yeah, please.
Israel, will exist. The Jewish state will exist.
That's not a
It will always
statistic.
exist,
That's not what we're.
and that is for
That
God
has absolutely
to do
nothing
and
to do with what we're saying.
And I will
You're
always support
supporting
Israel.
genocide, sir. You're
I will
supporting
always
the murder
support
of
Israel,
little children.
and you can tell the Palestinians I will
I
never
am a
support them.
Palestinian myself.
Then I will tell you,
Then say
I
it
will
to my
never
face.
support you.
Yeah.
I will tell you to your
And
face.
you want my you want my cousins
Goodbye
to
to
die.
Palestine.
Goodbye
I will
to
support
Goodbye to
Israel.
Palestine.
Goodbye to Palestine. We will support Israel forever.
So you are
I will
comfortable.
So
always
just
support Israel.
FYI, this guy just said goodbye
Always
to
support
Palestine.
Yes.
Israel.
So you just said goodbye to Palestine. So you are
Goodbye.
saying you are comfortable with the murder of thousands of children.
The Jewish people will never
You are
suffer
not
again
answering
under
the question.
Palestinian terrorism, under Hamas, under Hezbollah.
What about
Israel will be secure
30,000
forever.
innocent
God
civilians?
bless Israel forever.
Thank you
As
for
you
Wipe
say.
Palestine off the earth. Yeah.
God bless Israel forever. You can tell the Palestinians I will
I
never
am a
support
Palestinian
them.
myself.
Why do you support?
So this guy Chuck Fleischman, he got really animated when they started to basically ask him questions concerning what happened in Gaza. And the thing about this that I find very disturbing is there's no reason with this guy. Like, he's just one way and he's saying one thing and he's pointing his finger as if that's all. He's not willing to open his mind to any other options. He's very close-minded on what he's saying. And that's very disturbing because these are the people that represent Americans in government. The question is, for Representative Chuck Fleischman, what state does he even represent? Who is he representing? If the people he represents feel the same way as he does, it's fine. But what if that is just his feeling? That's just his feeling in Washington, and it's not representative of his state or the people he represents. That's a scary thing. And that's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about senators and congressmen who are loyal to lobbyists or people who fund them. And so he's behaving like that because he's funded or he's Jewish or something like that, a Zionist Jew. And so his allegiance is not to his representation, but his allegiance is to something else. That's what I'm worried about. That fundamentally is what corrupts democracy. Whether people say it's legal or not, I think it's a corruption of democracy. That's not what democracy was made for. That's not what the republic was made for. That's not what the founding fathers were thinking. They didn't want outside influences. They didn't want outside. Now, I'm saying this, given I'm not even American, right? I'm talking to you guys. I'm just talking as a person of the world. But the point is, and some people say, well, don't meddle in American business. Well, you meddle in mine. We meddle in other people's business in this respect. We can comment and we can speak on other people's business. It doesn't mean we are in the situation they are in. But when something makes news, we all talk about it, right? So I'm not American. Let me just make that abundantly clear. I'm not American. I live in Trinidad, which is in the Caribbean. I live in a republic and a democracy. Okay. But I belong to a democratic social republic. Okay, that's what it's called. Mainly because the government or the state owns certain enterprises, such as healthcare. Even though they are private healthcare buildings, the state has its own. It subsidizes for healthcare, and it has its own infrastructure. There are public hospitals, example. Just like how there are public schools in America. That's a socialist program. That's not capitalism. So there's socialism, there's capitalism, there's communism. And for those of you who don't understand the difference between the three, you should do some homework. Because I see a lot of you guys alleging, oh, Jill Stein's a commie, oh, she's Putin's puppet, and all kinds of bullshit. That Jill Stein's policies are in no way, shape, or form similar to Putin's policies, first of all. Her politics is not even like Putin's politics. Now, you guys make a big deal out of Jill Stein being at some table somewhere where Putin was also at that same table, and she was eating there with, at the time, Trump's, actually, the guy who was serving under Trump, I think it was the head of national defense was at that table as well. You have to understand, diplomats will always speak with one another, and sometimes, you'll see people. But the problem with it is that a lot of people don't understand that just because Vladimir Putin may have what's more of a Tsar, almost a dictatorship. Russia's like a dictatorship, sort of like, but the people are sort of allowing this to happen. In that Vladimir Putin has been elected in each cycle, and we say it's a democracy, but it's not a democracy. Let's just be real. Russia's not a democracy, okay? But the people are cool with it, so it is what it is. The same party being elected year after year, something's rigged there, right? But Putin's been there for 20-something years. And so he's been able to implement his policies and change how Russia is. Now, having said that, he is an academic, he is a diplomat. So you have lots of people who talk to each other on the phone all the time. The president of the United States of America talks to Putin on the phone. Heads of state talk to each other all the time. You have to understand that there's communication. Even when people disagree on how they conduct their affairs or how they do things, there's always communication. You have to keep the lines of communication. And Jill Stein, if she does become president of the United States, will have to speak to Vladimir Putin, will have to speak to heads of states. And some of the heads of states she's going to speak to are people who are diametrically opposed to the systems that America has, their political systems, etc. So you have to understand that, okay? A lot of these people anyway have been educated in Europe or in America anyway. So, it's like, it's sort of like a fraternity of people. Okay, but having said that, they try to make it sound like Jill Stein, she's Putin's puppet. This is what they're coming with to try and discredit her, which is Jill Stein's been around like forever. And the Green Party's been around like forever. And the Green Party is not there to split votes or to, try, destroy people's electoral chances. No, of course not. There's no such thing as two parties. Who said it has to have only two parties, Republican and Democrat? So I'm happy that the Green Party is coming into play here, and I think it's the perfect timing. Let's keep moving. But the thing that is scary here is how Chuck Fleischman, he's closed-minded to hearing anybody else's opinion. And that to me is scary, because you're supposed to be a senator. You're supposed to be open-minded to everybody's opinions and open-minded to what anybody has to say. Engage people in any kind of conversation and be able to stress your point across without being so stonewalling people and pointing your finger and behaving so stupidly, right? So that's the problem. When you're a senator and you're a congressman, you have to conduct yourself a little bit different. And you should be open to debating and arguing anything. In Germany, once again, we have a police officer who assaulted a Islamic lady. There it is in slow motion. He punched her. He literally punched her. He almost looks like a Nazi too. That's crazy. But anyway, I guess he's going to be sued, and I think he's going to lose his job because worldwide everybody saw it. So he's going to be in deep shit. We have here Khaleesi. Tens of thousands are flocking to shelters in Tel Aviv all across Israel. There's a wide mobilization of ambulance, fire crews on standby. Houthi psychological warfare is playing out in real time. She's laughing about that. Again, I'm not really happy that Tel Aviv is being attacked. Tel Aviv has been the target of a lot of things. But what it shows is that the Iron Dome, because as I said before, I have friends in Tel Aviv, so it's not cool for me. It gets very close to home. I'm not happy that Tel Aviv was attacked, but what it shows is that there are gaps in the Iron Dome, and the Houthis, whenever they want to, can attack, and they have been attacking the Iron Dome and disenabling actually strategically. Now, this is an act of terror in that civilians were hurt, and it was targeting civilian area. So that is an act of terror. But however, it's very important for people to understand something. The Houthis are doing this to send a message, and yes, it's terrorist. This is a terrorist warfare here. There's no other way to describe it, and they will have to account for that. But notice that when I spoke about this, the U.S. said they were not involved in the retaliation against the Houthis, and also Saudi Arabia was very clear that they did not retaliate against the Houthis, right? It was Israel and Israel alone that retaliated. And they wanted to be clear on that because they didn't want to start any more regional wars. America doesn't want to start a whole set of wars. They have Oman right now trying to speak to the Houthis and Yemen to get them to not attack Israel more than it is. They don't they don't want an escalation in problems. But the problem is the Houthis, once the Houthis realize that Israel continues to do genocide in Gaza and in Palestine, they will continue to attack Israel. A war on the Palestinians is a war on the Houthis. This is how the Houthis take it. And even though Israel bombed one of the Yemen's major ports of entry, you best believe the Houthis attacked Israel again. And I think they attacked them yesterday, I believe it is. And they're going to continue to attack them. This is something where America cannot control the Houthis and will not let them back down. America has threatened the Houthis. They bombed the Houthis. Saudi Arabia has bombed the Houthis. It doesn't make a difference. The Houthis are still blocking ships that go to Israel, still being a harassment in the Mediterranean. They're still sending their drones. Ships have to reroute when they're going to Israel. The Houthis are creating a whole set of fuss. It's a big thing going on right now in the Middle East because transshipment to Europe and all those things. Once it's going to Israel, the Houthis are intercepting it and destroying it. So the Houthis are doing a tremendous job at sort of stifling Israel's economy. And now they're doing direct acts of aggression at Israel. And Israel keeps on striking back. The problem is America wants all these other nations to back down and to contain themselves and show restraint. But they're not making Israel have restraint, and they're not controlling Israel. Israel's like the mean stepson or the mean stepchild of a very powerful, wealthy guy. And the powerful, wealthy guy is going around telling everybody, don't punch him, please don't punch him. And yet this mean stepchild gets to do anything that he wants to anybody else. And that is not going to be allowed for much longer. Iran has said, if Israel attacks Hezbollah, or attacks Lebanon, they are going to intervene and they're going to attack Israel. Russia has said that they're not going to tolerate Israel or the US or anyone attacking Iran when Iran has been trying to be peaceful. So if they attack Iran, Russia is going to enable Iran and Russia is going to jump in the fray. We've heard, and Russia's right now dealing with the war in Ukraine and with NATO, right? NATO is trying to ramp up things. And as I said before, if there's one country that's going to survive, even if there's a nuclear fallout, one country that's going to survive that nuclear fallout, it's going to be Russia. Russia's going to survive everything because it's just too large a landmass for anyone to really target and take out with nuclear weapons. It's just not possible. So, you know, the U.S. needs to be careful right now. They're negotiating through landmines, and they're trying to support something that is just not. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But anyway, yes. So the Israelis are being terrorized now. They were doing the terrorizing for decades with sporadic terrorist acts by the Palestinians to them. We had the intifadas, we had the random bombings and suicide bombings, and we even had rockets going into Tel Aviv and into Israel and stuff like that. But now, it's not just them, it's now Hezbollah, it's now Houthis, okay? We have nations continually now putting sanctions on Israel. We saw with the ICJ, what the ICJ effectively saying is sanction Israel. And all the United Nations should sanction them. So Israel's getting a lot of financial, diplomatic pressure put on it, not only to end this genocide, but also to end the occupation, which is really what showed up the ugliness of Israel. Now, Israel within its own self, within its own state is ugly as well. It treats its own civilians tremendously bad. especially of recent times with this right-wing government and this off the rails government headed by Netanyahu, who has done nothing good for Israel. Um, Also known as Meleikowsky. He's really Meleikowsky. That's his real name. So it's really nothing good has come out of this. Now, I want to show you guys something. So Pakistan has banned any products affiliated with Israel. The government of Israel set up a new committee to identify any products. The government of Pakistan, sorry, has set up a committee to identify any new products supporting or affiliated with Israel. This comes after the country declared Netanyahu a terrorist and Israel a terrorist entity. Now, as you know, some of the Middle Eastern countries, they do not actually see Israel as a legitimate state. A lot of people have been saying this, including Orthodox Jews who practice Judaism. They've been saying the very same thing. President Joe Biden officially drops out of the 2024 race, and who has replaced him is Senator Kamala Harris. And I believe I have the document somewhere around here somewhere. It's somewhere around. Let me see if I can find it real quick for you. So Kamala Harris is right now on the ticket. Joe Biden has endorsed her. Everybody but Barack Obama has endorsed her for president. Right now, she is filed as president in the next convention, which they'll have very soon. They'll ratify her as president of the United States. Nobody's going to contest her. Not president of the United States, sorry, presidential candidate of the United States. So she is already filed for that. President Biden has already endorsed her. Barack Obama hasn't endorsed her, but President Biden has endorsed her. Here is Kamala Harris, so you can understand where her policy will lie. She has received $5 million in AIPAC money over the course of her career so far from 2017. She has a good relationship with AIPAC, and now you're going to see what she's going to be about. Here.
Dear friends and AIPAC board members Anita Friedman and Sissy Swig and Amy Friedkin. And I'm proud to say and be that among the many voices represented here, the California delegation is the largest and hopefully the loudest. There you go. So having grown up in the Bay Area, I fondly remember those Jewish National Fund boxes that we would use to collect donations to plant trees for Israel. Years later, when I visited Israel for the first time, I saw the fruits of that effort and the Israeli ingenuity that has truly made a desert bloom. I soaked in the sights and sounds and smells of Jerusalem. I stood in Yad Vashem, devastated by the silent testimonies of the 6 million Jews that were murdered in the Holocaust. And we must always remember that solemn promise, never again. And I did what I often do when visiting a new country. I visited the highest court in the land. And as I toured Israel's Supreme Court, I was struck by the iconic architecture, which embodies Israel's founding principles of democracy and rule of law.
Okay, pause right there. So Israel doesn't have a democracy, and that was ruled with ICJ. They have an apartheid state. Furthermore, Israel is a land for Jews, apparently, and by Jew, they define them as a sort of genealogy, and not necessarily, or a nationality, not necessarily a religion. So this is a place for people who practice a certain religion. It is a sort of Jewish supremacy where they have rights and privileges over citizens. And as such, what Kamala Harris says in summary at this 2017 AIPAC policy conference is, I believe the bonds between the United States and Israel are unbreakable, and we can never let anyone drive a wedge between us. She went on to, of course, she's funded by AIPAC, so that's why she's speaking there. She went on to speak about policy, and her policy is not different from Joe Biden's. So no matter how passionately she may try to empathize with Palestinians, I can guarantee this: Kamala Harris will do nothing that Joe Biden did not do. She's going to policy-wise do the same things that Joe Biden has been doing, but she will talk and try to calm the Palestinian Americans and the Arab Americans and the Muslim Americans and the young people who have been protesting this genocide that's been happening. So I can tell you right now, Kamala Harris is not going to do anything. Let me repeat, she's not going to do anything policy-wise to reverse the effects of what Joe Biden has been doing. She will continue to fund the military complex, funneling all your taxpaying dollars into bombs and stuff like that. She's going to craftily try and speak to you and get to your hearts and minds and keep you calm while she again continues to supply and assist the genocide. She speaks about obeying international law. The last time she talked about a ceasefire, she said that it would be a ceasefire, blah, 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 blah. It wasn't a ceasefire. It was going to be a pause. Okay? And I want to say something else. It never worked out because Netanyahu didn't allow it. Netanyahu is on his way right now to the United States of America. And Netanyahu, what he wants to do is he wants to now marshal the forces of Congress to stand behind him as he wages war against Iran. Israel has been trying to take out any power that could be a threat to it in any kind of way. They took out Iraq by allowing America to go and wage a war with Iraq that was illegal, wrong, morally, ethically, and otherwise. Then they went on to cause confusion in Syria and destabilize it. And their next stop is Iran. The Middle Eastern countries, Saudi Arabia, Egypt. Well, they crippled Egypt with the Arab Spring, and they got Egypt like their bitch because Egypt is depending on US dollars. But Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, all of these countries need to understand that Israel is looking to weaken them and then take them over. The greater Israel is supposed to span from Egypt all the way to parts of Saudi Arabia, all the way up to the European nations, the Eastern European nations in the north. In other words, they're not comfortable. These are so-called Israeli Jews, who are really European Jews, who are not really the true-blooded Jews. They're really Europeans. Meleikowsky is striving to basically create an empire and expand themselves to take over most of the Middle East. They were able to destroy Libya and Colonel Gaddafi. And these wicked people are looking to strive to do more. As I said before, Wall Street is in support of this because Wall Street has these military complex companies and surveillance companies which benefit from this stuff. So war, and more war. And in the meantime, they're able to also launder money and transfer money to beneficiaries and individuals who make money off of this. So it's a whole scheme. Here's Ireland talking about freeing Palestine. So we got that in Ireland. Here is yet another set of violence happening in the West Bank. This is farmers from the West Bank being attacked by illegal Israeli settlers. And then you see the soldier, the IDF soldier, firing his rounds of munitions so that they can't retaliate with the soldiers. This is the kind of thuggery that's happening out there. And by the way, just in case you think that this coverage is from some sort of Al Jazeera or something, no, this is an Israeli who's covering this. And let me just tell you what this is. The Israeli's name is Barak Avi. This is an Israeli from Israel. Let me out. The place is from Safar Yatta in the south of Mount Hebron. The house belongs to Palestinians. The masked Judeo-Nazis, and he calls them Judeo-Nazis, with clubs are the settlers' youths of horrors. The soldier who stands by and allows this to happen and even aims and shoots the air in the direction of the attack is a soldier in the Israeli Defense Force, at least the official name. This is his value service. This is why he's mobilized to protect the state. He's already been screwed for life, but not like them. The case is a daily routine. There are in many other places people who pay and finance this thing are all of us. This is the Israelis he's talking about. Most Israelis do not want to know about this routine. It's easier to live in a Disney movie where the bad guys are always someone else and not you. And that's weird because he says Disney movie because and Disney's heavily financed by the Israeli lobby and AIPAC. Oh, and there's no occupation. It's an invention. So this is an Israeli man named Barak Avi. So I want you guys to understand he's not in Israel right now. That's why he can be able to do this. Otherwise, they'd probably arrest him. But I want you guys to know without unequivocally, and I know there are a lot of polls and people talking, I'm going to tell you this. A lot of the people in the polls, why you get these lopsided polls is because if an Israeli truly expresses his mind, he could be imprisoned, he could be killed, murdered, his house invaded, because even Israel right now is a police state. There's no democracy in Israel. It's a fascist state. And a lot of Israelis are fighting against it. A lot of Israelis have been incarcerated for fighting against it. But it's going down the road of being a fascist state. Not only is it a fascist state, it's it's sort of like one of those sci-fi stories. So a lot of people don't know what's going on in Israel, and Barak Avi, he's opening it up for people. Okay, let's keep it moving here. This is another example. This time, a settler shoots a Palestinian man. He shoots him. The others come to his assistance, and then he backs off. And again, the soldier in the background. So you guys can see the soldier in the background right there. And this is a regular thing in the West Bank, okay? And this is to get the people off the land. Some of them are, some of the Arabs, you know, they're farmers. So they're down the land, they do their farming, they do olive trees, they do sheep, cattle, that kind of thing. The Israeli settlers murder their sheep, destroy their homes, damage their cattle. There's all kinds of things they do. They bulldoze down their homes with the aid of the U.S. military, and the grounds they say is, "Oh, you're the illegal settler. You don't have a permit. You don't have a pass." Okay, this is the kind of craziness they do. But they, of course, they won't have permits and passes. Why? They're not a country. They don't have ID. They don't have identification. They don't have passports. By the fucking UN dragging its feet on this stuff, you have people who are living in a place where they don't have a nationality, therefore they don't have IDs, they don't have the normal things that they're supposed, they don't have a defense force, they have nothing. They have certain structures, and this is why the Israeli settlers have been able to exploit that and treat them horribly, because the world has turned their back on the Palestinians. And now the United Nations, after 70-something fucking years, they're looking now to try and make Palestine a nation. They should have done that a fucking long time ago. So there's AIPAC. It bought up Pete Burkberg, Pete Buttigieg, whatever the fuck his name is. All right. They bought this guy out a long time ago. Then you got, look at this one. This one's even more crazy.
Interrupt a foreign leader giving them advice on what to do. I can't believe I'm even reporting this. Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, says he will arrest any members of Congress who dare to interrupt Benjamin Netanyahu's speech inside of Congress next week. Again, he is threatening members of America's Congress with arrest if they interrupt a foreign leader giving them advice on what to do. And look at this article. It's from the Times of Israel. How much power does a foreign country have over us where American politicians would be arrested if they spoke out against that dictator, who's apparently a dictator of America, too? No country in the world would ever allow something like this. Israel themselves would never allow the President of the United States to ever go visit their version of Congress, the Knesset, to give advice to them. This is absurd. And when Benjamin Netanyahu gives his speech on camera, it is also broadcasting to the world that Israel rules America.
Right. So let me get to this point. That is why It's up to the citizens of America who do not like what is happening to arrest Netanyahu. So you either have a citizen arrest, he is a diplomat, so you need to have a warrant. You either have a citizen's arrest or you work through the Department of Justice or some other department petitioning them to make sure that Netanyahu is arrested on site, whether it's when he lands in DC's airport, whether it's in JFK airport, whether it is he lands, he's on his way to DC, there should be an arrest warrant for him. Okay? That's what they need to do. And I want to say, and this is Jason Cole, I want to say he's absolutely correct to point this out, that AIPAC is at work, as he was saying. But I want to just add that the supporters of Donald Trump, the supporters of, once you're not a free evangelical or somebody who's a Zionist, you need to protest this. Not only protest it, but you need to actually arrest the man. Okay? He needs to get arrested. He's coming to America. He's boldly coming to America. Then he should be arrested. Now, with respect to Michael Johnson saying he's going to arrest people, is who can arrest who first? That's how it has to go. Who can arrest who first? That's how it has to go down. European voters are rejecting their government's blind support of Israel. The political shift in Europe to a pro-Palestine, at least less emphatically pro-Israel position is happening at much faster rate than anyone hoped for and anticipated. Oh, I'm telling you, by November this year, it's going to be crazy. And that's why I think Jill Stein's going to actually become president of the United States. I think that's a very, very, very clear possibility. Mark Kelly, who is a Democratic U.S. Senator for Arizona, again, he has received AIPAC funding. Oh, he's been floated as a potential VP for Kamala Harris as well. So that's some bullshit. And it all goes to show you where Kamala Harris will lie. And I just believe that you guys going to have to abandon the Democratic Party and pick up somebody else if you want to really keep democracy going. Jan X Girl says, watching these establishment goons pontificate about Joe Biden's service to America makes me vomit. History will remember Joe Biden for the one thing, genocidal Joe. Yeah, definitely. It'll overshadow all his stuff with unions. And the unions, by the way, the trade unions and all the unions that he's supposedly supporting, they're against the genocide in Gaza. And they have made it clear to Joe Biden that they're against it. And still, he persists. So here it is. Arrest Netanyahu, surround the Capitol, July 24th, 11 a.m. Now, I'm not saying that there won't be a civil war in the United States of America, but the American people need to express themselves. And so I'm going to say this once and for all, besides the Jews for Peace and all of these other movements, that we need to have now law enforcement and other people step up and allow the will of the people to happen. This guy is going to get an arrest warrant from the ICC very soon. There's going to be an arrest warrant outstanding for him. It's not presently so, but I do believe the Department of Justice have found irregularities, and they can build a case around Netanyahu and arrest him. Now, he's a diplomat, so you have to have a warrant to arrest a diplomat. And since Interpol does not reach as far as America, the FBI or the Department of Justice or the CIA or some other body will have to arrest him. Now, the thing about it is the CIA works closely with Mossad, particularly the CIA, not so much than the FBI. FBI is more on American soil. But one of these, the NSA, CIA, FBI, one of them will have to initiate it, or the Department of Justice. But there needs to be an arrest warrant for Netanyahu outstanding, and they need to arrest him. That's what needs to happen on American soil. That'll send a very strong message to the world that America is actually supporting what the ICJ is doing, as well as realizing that there is something wrong here. Now, in terms of political polls, that was a day ago. Donald Trump is in the front running. Kamala Harris is next. Robert F. Kennedy is third. Others 3% right now. This is what it stands like. This is what it looks like. I voted for other. And that makes sense. That makes sense right now, as how things are. Cori Bush, she made a statement concerning what happened with the International Court of Justice. She's absolutely 100% correct. This guy, Ali Terry Watkins, is rather stupid, but it is what it is. He's talking about she needs to care about her constituents and she's worried about foreign affairs. And actually, that is international news. And so she has a right to comment on that while also dealing with her constituency. So there's nothing absolutely wrong with what she did. Suppressed News says the Israeli army announces the death of 46 out of 120 Israeli captives in Gaza, which probably were killed by the bombings that Israel keeps on doing. The thing about it is, and I've been talking about this for a while, Israel has been dominant in the sky because they have aircraft and they have airports where they can fly their aircraft over cities and bomb them. All right. And they've been able to do successful bombing campaigns because they have American planes, which they have modified, and they conduct bombing raids with. Their major damage, the most damage that the Israeli army has done is through bombing, right? Very much like what happened in Vietnam, where the American forces bombed the daylights out of the Viet Cong, bombed the daylights out of Cambodia, killed a lot of people, but still the Viet Cong won that war. And right here again, Hamas is winning this war, and several people will win wars because the military complex doesn't care if the war is won or lost. All they care about is laundering money and making money off of war. This is what this is all they care about. So there's no real, it's very nihilistic. They don't care about the outcome. They just care that they're making money. And this is terrible. And this is why we have to break from it. And that's why something systematic like that, and this is the kinds of money that are poured into national security, national defense, the military, intelligence, are ridiculous sums of money. I mean, Congress puts more money into defense and into all of these the industrial military complex that dwarfs anything that has to do with monies going to anywhere else. Just dwarfs. We're talking trillions of dollars. And this military complex is owned by private companies to some degree. It is still a national military thing, but the people who do the spying software and intelligence and all these things, they're contractors. Contractors are doing these things. They're contractors that have all our data. They're contractors now who work with the CIA. I know because I have my cousin's husband is a contractor for the CIA. Okay, so like I said before, you have the private sector working alongside with the CIA, and it's always been this way, right? Hollywood works with the CIA. Everybody works with the CIA. Mossad. We don't talk about the British and the French and the Germans who also work alongside Israel. So it's Israel. This is why they have a close connection. This is why they can't vouch for each other. Okay, Israel's intelligence, America's intelligence, Germany, France's intelligence, and the UK's intelligence, they all work together. This is why Germany is trying to protect Israel, because they're covering for Israel, because Israel's like their little brother in terms of intelligence. And intelligence, they do good things and they do very bad things with it. And so you have to understand this is where this is coming from. But it shows nepotism. It shows the ugliness. The fact that you don't want to prosecute Israel on things that they're blatantly doing that's destroying international law, which you wouldn't do for any other country, shows the bias and the stupidity and the corruption. That's what's going on. I got to play this for you guys. This is an animation and based off of the real phone call. I got to show you guys. This is going to break your heart. Anybody with a conscience, but here we go. This is Hind Rajib, the little 5-year-old that died, that was shot to death by the IDF.
عمه من الهلال عمال
هلا نحكي بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. برافو عليكي، هيك حافظة. ميتين؟ وهم هلا معك بالسيارة؟ وين انت هلا محمية؟ بالسيارة. بابا جنبية. خليكي يا عمري بالسيارة، أنا حتمني فاتحة الخط معاكي، أتمني أحكي معك، ما بدي أسكر التليفون، تمام؟
Every time I see this, it really distresses me because it's a child, it's very, very disturbing. So if you are as disturbed as I am over that, think about all these children. Okay, they haven't lived any life yet. Some of them don't know what hate is. They don't know what love is. Some of them have just been born. And these children have been beheaded, butchered. I mean, the fucking evil that has been committed is so gross. It's so evil. It's so demonic. And we're only here about one side, and they exaggerate shit. And I think about, the pedophilia rings, and I think about all the atrocities that children go through in the world today, human trafficking of children, sexual abuse of children. And to see straight up fucking murder of children by the IDF, if it doesn't get your blood boiling, if it doesn't get you mad, if it doesn't get you to feel some sort of way, then you're a cold-blooded sicko. You gotta be sick. You gotta have some kind of humanity, right? And this is the thing that bothers me, that the Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris, can take millions and millions of AIPAC money, but you're gonna keep with a fucking policy that allows children to be murdered and butchered. Now, this happens in Africa as well. This is happening right now in the Congo. This is happening in Sudan. This is happening in Somalia. This shit is going on globally. Okay? Plus, we've got, if you guys have seen the movie by Angel Studios, children keep on being abused, exploited, raped, murdered, sodomized. All kinds of evil is happening to children all over the world, particularly in terms of the human trafficking trade, which literally is the biggest contraband trade in the world right now. And a lot of underage children are being abused. They're ending up in slavery. They're ending up as sex slaves. All kinds of craziness is going on. And to see this just epitomizes how much fucking disgusting hate is poured out to children. These are children, ladies and gentlemen. So this is where I draw the line. And there's no way I'm going to elect any official. The United States of America is based on protection of women and children. That's how it's organized. And there's no fucking way in God's green earth right now, as we speak, these atrocities are happening. But because Israel-Palestine is such a high-profile thing, these atrocities are happening and being televised. They're being filmed. It has to end. It has to stop. It has to stop. And that is why you'll hear people who are directly related to this, there's no way in their hearts they're going to vote for a Kamala Harris or for a Joe Biden or even for the Democratic Party because of the policy that they have. They'll try and emotionally manipulate you, but the policy is fucking disgusting when it comes to Israel and Palestine. I remember the United Nations calling for a ceasefire, and that ceasefire being vetoed by the ambassador to the United States of America in the UN. And I said, this is fucking disgusting. Fucking disgusting. So what's done is done. Those who have died have died. But the ICJ ruled that Israel is guilty of apartheid against Palestinians, and its military occupation and annexation of Palestinian territories is illegal. And they have said that they need to leave, and the settlers need to leave those territories, and they need to cease occupation, and that the territories will have to be reinstated to their 1967 borders. And it must abide by whatever is there in the Oslo Accords. That's the ruling by the ICJ. That no country should support, aid, do trade with, diplomatic ties with Israel until it abides by these rules and begins abiding by these rules. I 100% agree. Even though I do believe they should not only move back to the 1967 borders, but Israel should completely be removed from the map in its present form, meaning apartheid Israel needs to come to an end. It's not just its dealings in the occupied territories, but its dealings within its own country is apartheid as well. And that needs to be also addressed. Jeremy Corbyn, who should have been the Prime Minister of the UK, he had this to say.
Give a blanket undertaking that you, as party leader, during one extremely hostile meeting of the Parliamentary Labour Party Committee, they confronted me and said, will you give a blanket undertaking that you, as party leader and potentially Prime Minister, will automatically support any military action Israel undertakes? And I said, no, I will give no such undertaking. I will give no such agreement. Was I surprised at this support for Israel? No, because the pressure of Israel on the Israeli government, on the Labour Party, is huge. Israel has been an ever-present lobby for Israel's military needs, as they put them, and attempts always to justify the continued occupation. During one extremely hostile meeting.
And Jeremy Corbyn is right. This is the rightful Prime Minister of England right now. The man makes sense. He's balanced, but he's not. Israelis are protesting at the Bulgarian airport and have surrounded almost all the entrances to prevent Netanyahu's trip to the U.S., demanding a prisoner exchange deal with the resistance in Gaza. I believe this is where the Canadian got shot. As you can see, they're in cages for a reason. They're saying that the hostages that are still in Gaza are still in their cage, and they're also in prisons with blood on their hands. These people understand. These Israelis, we're not getting a lot of coverage in the West about this, but a lot of these Israelis understand that Israel brought this upon themselves. Even what happened in October 7th was brought upon themselves. You know, when you oppress people and you really brutalize them and you steal their land and you do what you do, this is what comes as a result of it. And of course, eventually the sea takes back the land that you've claimed. The kids are still in cages. See, reminder. There you go. Peter Dow, he had some comments to make, and I will get to that in a minute. Photos show what's left of the homes of Palestinian brothers Mustafa and Mahmoud Rabbah after Israeli bulldozers demolished them in south of occupied Jerusalem. So you see, it's all over. It's not just Gaza. Australia urges Israel to stop settler violence in the Palestinian territory and wake up the ICJ's ruling. What about the Israeli soldiers who committed war crimes? What about dual nationals who returned to Israel to rejoin the IDF units in Gaza? Israel will deny travel visas into the country to anyone identified as a settler in the West Bank and Palestinian territories. I guess the soldiers will also apply to that, and anyone who contravenes the law and has been in the occupied territories administrating injustice. Mohammed Safa says, is it self-defense when you target a UN convoy carrying humanitarian aid workers heading to starving children in Gaza? This happened yesterday, actually. They did so. They killed yet another journalist, so the number of journalists killed is close to 300, 400 journalists now. It's just record-breaking numbers in Gaza. Haidar Lemsadar, a media activist and political researcher, has been confirmed killed in the Israeli bombardment targeting a tent for journalists at the yard of Al-Aqsa Hospital in Deir-e-Bala. This is a surgeon, Brianna Joy Gray. She does what is called, I forgot what her channel is called. It'll come to me. It'll come to me. But she's on YouTube, and she does a great job, not just covering Gaza, but also covering other news. One American, and she's also a supporter of Jen Stein and the Green Party, which I would be as well. One American doctor told us he even reviewed CT scans to confirm what he saw because he, quote, didn't believe that this many children could be admitted to a single hospital with gunshot wounds to the head. They're sniping children. These fuckers, man. It's just so evil. But, you know, as I said, if Blackwater is there, they're sending mercenaries and people who love to kill other people. So there's all of that you have to put into the mix, because usually a normal soldier wouldn't even think of doing something like that, right? Surgeon Dr. Mark Perlmutter on what he witnessed in his first month in Gaza on CBS Sunday. No toddler gets shot twice by mistake. The world's best sniper. Okay, here we go.
Dead center shots.
When were you in Gaza?
End of April for the first couple weeks of May.
Dr. Mark Perlmutter, an orthopedic surgeon from North Carolina and vice president of the International College of Surgeons, volunteered in Gaza. So, of all the disaster zones you've seen, how does Gaza compare?
All of the disasters I've seen combined, 40 mission trips, 30 years, ground zero, earthquakes, all of that combined doesn't equal the level of carnage that I saw against civilians in just my first week in Gaza.
And when you say civilians, is it mostly children?
Almost exclusively children. I've never seen that before. Never seen that. I've seen more incinerated children than I've ever seen in my entire life combined. I've seen more shredded children in just the first week.
Shredded?
Shredded.
What do you mean?
Missing body parts, being crushed by buildings, the greatest majority, or bomb explosions, the next greatest majority. We've taken shrapnel as big as my thumb out of 8-year-olds, and then there's sniper bullets. I have children that were shot twice.
Wait, you're saying that children in Gaza are being shot by snipers?
Definitively. I have 2 children that I have photographs of that were shot so perfectly in the chest I couldn't put my stethoscope over their heart more accurately, and directly on the side of the head in the same child. No toddler gets shot twice by mistake by the world's best sniper. And they're dead center shots.
In fact, more than 20 doctors recently in Gaza also told Sunday Morning about gunshot wounds to children. One American doctor told us he even reviewed CT scans to confirm what he saw because he, quote, didn't believe that this many children could be admitted to a single hospital with gunshot wounds to the head. Some shootings have been captured on video. The Israel Defense Forces declined our requests for an on-camera interview. But in an email, a spokesperson told CBS News, quote, the IDF has never and will never deliberately target children, adding, quote, remaining in an active combat zone has inherent risks. And the IDF stressed that it calls for the evacuation of civilians from combat zones. The UN reports that to date, more than 80% of Gaza's population has been displaced and the majority of its buildings destroyed. A reality which has taken its own toll on the well-being of children. What about the emotional wounds?
How can you measure that? I can't measure my own. How do you be an orphan and watching your family, melted in front of you and shredded in front of you? How do you fix that? Ever fix that?
In fact, so many Palestinian children have had family members killed that doctors created a shorthand term, WCNSF, Wounded Child, No Surviving Family.
We're very proud and honored to be able to bring...
Last month, speaking in Washington, D.C., other American doctors echoed Dr. Perlmutter's calls for help.
We've described it as a catastrophe, a nightmare, a hell on earth. It's all of these and worse.
We didn't even have hand sanitizer or alcohol or soap most of the time.
And while we're there, we're listening to, aid is getting in. We're taking care of civilians. They're not being targeted. And yet we're witnessing a completely different story.
For dozens of miles, we saw 18-wheelers parked bumper to bumper, engines off outside of Gaza. Food or healthcare could not get in.
How many kids are in danger of starvation in Gaza?
All of them. Absolutely all of them.
United Nations experts have accused Israel of carrying out a targeted starvation campaign. But Israeli officials say they've allowed the delivery of more than 600,000 tons of food and supplies, quote, with the goal of bringing as much aid into the Gaza Strip as possible. When were you in Gaza?
End of April for the first couple weeks of May.
Dr. Mark Perlmutter, an orthopedic surgeon from North Carolina and vice president of the International College of Surgeons.
So the doctors, people who were in there, tell you what they saw. And the Israelis continue to lie. And they continue to blockade. This is horrible what's happening. There's no words to describe how horrible this is. And it begs a question. Now that we've seen what has been hidden for 75 years, now we see what's really happening. How do a lot of you feel about this? Are you willing to bring to being regimes, whether it's Trump or Biden or Harris, whether it's Democrat or Republican? Are you willing to bring to the forefront regimes that take AIPAC money, that take Israeli lobby money, that take the industrial complexes money to gotta be kidding. Hold on a second, people. Gonna try and call again in between. I hope not. Yeah. Okay, so as I'm saying, take AIPAC money. Are you willing to assist are you going to assist or take are you going to allow for these parties, which are not going to do anything about the genocide in Gaza? They're not going to do anything about what Israel's doing. They're going to protect Israel. Both parties. Are you willing to elect that kind of government? Because if that government can behave that way for the poor, the helpless, and the weak, what do you think they're going to do to you? They've been doing it all along. They're saying they don't have money for healthcare. They don't have money for jobs. You know, they don't have money to help and assist homeless. But when COVID came, all of a sudden everybody could get a stipend. When Wall Street happened, they had trillions to bail out Wall Street. You know, when there's a war going on in the Ukraine or a war somewhere, they have billions and trillions of dollars to give away to the military industry complex. But when it comes to you and your needs, they don't have money for you. They don't have money to subsidize students for school. They don't have money for that, but they have money, tons and tons of money for war. For bailing out the rich. Look at the policies. Look at the policies. Come on. Go away. You're fucking up my stream, man. All right. I don't know if I'm recording or I'm not recording. Am I recording right now? I hope I am. Okay, so I'm not sure what's going on exactly, but I'll check afterwards. But what we were trying to say to you guys here is, hold on a second, let me clear that. What I was trying to say to you guys here is that you have to deal with governments and regimes that care about you. Okay? You have to deal with those people who are interested in your well-being. And the present governments that we have are not interested in your well-being. Brianna Joy Gray says Israel fired on a humanitarian convoy that had coordinated its moments in advance with Israel. Again. Kurdish President Erdogan says Israel must face punishment for its crimes to deter anyone from considering such cruelty again. He's right, because it'll be precedent. This is just something that has to do with Congo. I'm just going to tell you, Congo is bleeding. It has not ended. Over 5 million people are dead and millions, especially 40,000 children in labor camps at gold mines around the country. The world must remember we live in a society, not an economy. This is just a poll by the Pew Research. 80% of Israelis are genocidal demons, it said, but I don't think that poll is a true reflection of all the Israelis, but nonetheless. 19% think that Israel's gone too far. 39% think it's about right, and 34% said not going far enough. 7% says they don't know. 6% believe that Israel will fail. 13% say probably fail. 27% thinks they probably succeed, and 40% thinks they definitely succeed, but they haven't succeeded in doing anything so far. Mr. Putin says Russia's MFA reacts to Joe Biden dropping out the use. The next step after Biden's written statement about withdrawing from the election race should be an investigation into the collusion of American media and political circles, which hid the true state of affairs about his mental state, manipulating public opinion and playing along with one political party. That's true. Here's another AIPAC person, Chantel Brown, another Democrat. $1 million received from the pro-Israeli lobby. This is a lady talking up against oil. A politician in the judiciary, energy companies should be shocked and deeply embarrassed with how the court has dispensed its version of justice today. Listen to Kathy Kersey's mom speaking outside the court after 22-year-old Kersey was sentenced to 4 years in prison.
Dreams and hopes, like all young people. Hello, everybody. My daughter is Cressida Gethin. At the age of 22, she was the youngest defendant, and she has just been sentenced today to 4 years in prison. This means she will not be present at her brother's wedding next summer. I want to bring her to life. For those of you who were not present in the courtroom, Cressida grew up in the countryside and is one of those nature-loving defendants that you've heard about. She is an extremely talented musician. She worked hard growing up. She achieved highly. She has ambitions, dreams, and hopes, like all young people. She had just finished her first year at university. Cressida also grew up completely understanding right and wrong. She has always been unable to stand by when she sees injustice. She has the courage of a lion and a moral compass that compels her to step forward when she sees wrong. And what she has seen, what so many people will not face, is that our leaders are sleepwalking us to a climate apocalypse by their failure to prioritize decarbonisation, and that with this will come enormous suffering. Like many of the defendants, Cressida tried polite routes to protest and to persuade, to effect change. But when she heard the science and saw that no one was paying attention, she felt she had no option. She often mentioned this statement to me from a renowned climate scientist. The world's response to date is reprehensible. What do we have to do to get through to people how bad this really is? In 2022, when she was 20 years old, she took direct action and engaged in civil resistance, a strategy with proven results, albeit with risks for those who step up. She took action just after the laws on protest were heavily tightened, with the implications for protesters untested, from the expectation of action resulting in a fine, a tag, or a short period of detention. She now faces this, a multi-year sentence in prison. Nick and I are proud of what Cressida stands for, and that she has stood up to call out the misery that lack of action is going to bring. But I also grieve for Cressida. We are told that justice has been done today, but it doesn't look like that to us. Our politicians, our media, our judiciary, and yes, our energy companies should be shocked and deeply embarrassed how the court has dispensed its version of justice today. Hello, everybody. My daughter is Cressida Gethin. At the age of 22, she was the...
So they try to make an example out of this young person who's standing up for what is right, engaging in civil disobedience. They're trying to discourage other people from doing so. I just wanted to say, first of all, they did that to WikiLeaks man. I forgot what his name is. And they're trying to do it to her so that people will be deterred. Do not bow to them. If you have to go to prison, so be it. But do it for the right thing. Do it for your conscience. When you step up to do something, don't second guess yourself. Cressy is the same thing as the guy who kneeled at the national anthem. Who still, they still try to vilify him to this day, but he did the right thing. We have to do the right thing. Doing the right thing doesn't mean that you'll be looked at as a hero by everybody. It doesn't mean that you get compliments. It doesn't mean that you'll be thanked for doing the right thing. So go today and do the right thing. Okay? Stand fast. Do the right thing. That's what I got to say. I keep it at that for now, but I'm definitely going to return to this in a bit. Okay, let me get back to what I was doing here. Okay. Listen to this Irishman.
That Israeli regime, this massacre of people. We have lived in Gaza virtually for over 9 months, so we know what we're seeing. We know that it's genocide. No one can tell us anything different. When we see a child being sniped and anyone that comes to help him being shot at, we know that that is genocide. There's innocent people being slaughtered every single day. And what can we do as human beings that don't want to break the law? We come in here and we take the Israeli products off the shelves. It's as simple as that. There is no hatred, there's no intimidation. We're basically just here to try and stop Israel from carrying out slaughter that has affected all of our mental health over the last 9 months. I have a normal 9-to-5 job, but every morning I wake up, I see another slaughter of 100-odd people. I see children being burned alive. I see fathers holding their children, half of their children and the other half somewhere else. That's what we see every morning. And when we do 9-to-5 job, massacres are happening right throughout it. And at the end of the day, there's another massacre. So we can literally not sit after 9-to-5 job, sit in our homes and just get on with normal life. We can't do it. That's why we are here today. That's why we're going up to Home Bargains next, and we'll be in Sainsbury's after that. We just can't take slaughter happening non-stop around the clock, being live streamed to our phones. I'm not talking about religion. I'm not talking about race. All I am talking about is innocent people being slaughtered. It's as simple as that. You can listen to us, you can ignore us. You can listen to the facts, you can make up your own facts. But that's why we're here, removing the products. We are pleading with Lidl's to stop selling them, because as soon as they stop selling them, we're a wee bit more comfortable that our community is no longer funding the genocide that's happening today. Please listen to us. We're educated on this. We see it every day. Please, please listen to us. Get these products off our shelves. Stop letting our community fund genocide no longer. It's an absolute disgrace. Thank you for everyone in this door that is aware of what I'm talking about. Anyone that isn't, please go online, go on social media, go on Al Jazeera, you'll see what I'm talking about. Last 10 days, 6 UN schools bombed. Why would you bomb a UN school? 6 of them in 10 days. 90-odd people massacred in a refugee camp. Children being starved because no aid's coming in. What would you call that? We call it genocide. That's what it is. It's genocide. And we're here to try and prevent it. We ask for your help. That's as much as we can do. You can either ignore us or listen to us, but please, 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 please stand on the right side of history with us. Stop this genocide. It's horrendous. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Israel is herding the entire population of Gaza in a sense of utter desperation, of poverty, of lack of food, of lack of medicine, of lack of water, and serious injuries that cannot be treated. And that ultimately its aim is to expel the population of Gaza and reoccupy it itself. Does he not think it's time that we supported a call for a ceasefire, as every other nation in the world has, and stop being isolated in this ridiculous approach in which we're saying somehow or other a ceasefire can't work? You have to start somewhere to save life. You have to start somewhere to prevent this catastrophe getting even worse, on top of the 18,000 already killed in Gaza.
He's right. Another person in the Israeli lobby's purse, Laurie Chavez Darema. Here they are burning olive trees. It shows you clearly colonial mentality of the Zionists. Indigenous people don't burn olive trees. They're scared. They're sacred. My grandfather used to feel for it like one of his own children. Why are they burning the olive trees? Tell me, what does this have to do with Hamas? Emperor of Lies says, Jill Stein gets my vote. How about you? Jill Stein is the only candidate who opposes genocide and crimes against humanity. If I was American, that's precisely where my vote would be going. Jill Stein. All right, so let me get to it now. I'll speak a little bit about Jill Stein and the Green Party a little bit, and then the strategy that needs to be implemented so that the Green Party can become that party that wins the elections. Now, this is not going to be easy. Okay, this is not going to be easy. This is not an easy road. I'm going to explain to you how this goes and what is going to happen. And then I have to go make some turns as well as talk to some people. So first of all, Jill Stein, she's going to have pretty much, I do believe, the Arab American and when all said and done, the Muslim vote, and a lot of the young people are going to vote for her, okay? Once they know who she is and what she's about. So that's expected, but that's not going to get her the winning of the elections. The Arab community and the Muslim community, they're not the majority of Americans. Now, young Democrats and young independent people and people who've been active in opposing the genocide, how they've been treated by the very Democratic Party by pushing anti-Semitic, illegal anti-Semitic in quotes, laws. Because of that, to try and silence them, I think they're not going to vote for the Democrats. They're just not going to do it. what they're going to vote for is Jill Stein. Now, I see Juice for Peace trying to give the Democrats a chance with Kamala Harris. You have to look at the policy. If the policy hasn't changed, which it's not going to change under Kamala Harris, you're wishing on a prayer. Now, to the Democratic base, Jill Stein is going to need to get the Democratic base to support her. And that's going to be tricky because you got diehard Democrats who are spreading gossip and rumors about Jill Stein, and you got Zionists who are spreading gossip and rumors about Jill Stein. So she has to get the Democratic base to vote for her. See, what she's getting is a fringe base, which is young people, which is a substantial amount of Democrats, and then you have you're going to have the Arab and the Muslim community, right? That's not enough to win elections. She has to get most of the Democratic base, and she also has to get some of the Republican base to win these elections. So the game plan should be simple. You have to convince the Democratic base that what Jill Stein is bringing to the table is something they've seen before, but unlike the rhetoric where the other people are really more indebted to corporations, the military complex, Wall Street, lobbyists, she doesn't have that baggage going into Washington, D.C. She's still going to be green about how Washington, D.C. operates, but she doesn't have that baggage. She's coming in without that baggage. She hasn't taken any big interest money. That's why when people say she's Putin's puppet, that's the dumbest thing ever said. Jill Stein still needs donations to finish off the ballots in the different states, and she's contesting some of those ballots on certain states. So obviously the Green Party's been around for a long time. Jill Stein has, the Green Party is not really associated with Putin or anything like that. That's just nonsense gossip spread by Democrats to try and discredit Jill Stein. But her platform is so concrete, and it's not just her. The Green Party's platform is very concrete that it could work. Now, Cornel West is working separate to Jill Stein. I wish he would work with Jill Stein. No matter what, he should work with Jill Stein. But whatever, he still supports the Green Party. Now, there are certain people who should be in the Green Party. Bernie Sanders, AOC, the squad should be in the Green Party. They really don't belong in the Democratic caucus. They just don't. Another person who I think should be a Green Party member, even though some of his policies are in diametric opposition to some of the things in the Green Party, is Thomas Massie. I think all of these people should group together as one coalition and work together. Because I'm going to be honest with you, the Green Party is the way to go. It's the only alternative to what is happening there. It's kind of unproven in the sense that they never had a term. Donald Trump has had a term. Things are not going to get better with Palestine under Donald Trump. Things are not going to get better with Palestine under Kamala Harris and the Democrats. They've proven that. They have a track record history in their policy of how they conduct things, and it's not good. So you have to look at the policy. You have to look at the policy of these. You have to look at the policy of these parties, and that's the problem. Now, with respect to Jill Stein, that's a tall order still to win the elections. You have to get to all these people. So what is the game plan? What is the game plan to get her to all these people? Well, I'll tell you. These people had to see that they're not being represented properly. That the governments are really subservient to the intelligence community. That the governments are really subservient to big business. That these people are being deceived, but by showing and exposing that the people surrounding these people are really people who support big business. And when I say big business, I mean corporations, lobby groups, agencies, which flood these people with a whole set of money. And so they end up with their allegiances to them more than their allegiances to the American public. And remember, this is the federal government we're talking about. We're not talking about the state governments, which is another thing. We need to look at the state governments as well and see if there's corruption there and if the state governments are actually representing the people and their needs. So that's the picture that we need to do. We have to convince people that these people are not interested in you, in me. They're interested in big government. They're interested in big business, corporations. They want to get donations. They want to get money. They really want to just fill their pockets. And that's where the corruption comes in. Legalized corruption, but nonetheless. So that's what we're looking at. Now, got a couple more things I want to share with you, and then I'll wrap this up. And then I have a phone call to check. I think my brother was trying to call me, and I haven't heard from him in a long time. So I want to get to him, and then I will get to other things. Thomas Massey said, if a coup happened in your country, would you recognize it? This is a coup of a puppet regime. Why is he even in the White House now? Okay, so Thomas Massey thinks that it's a coup where, Joe Biden is no longer president. I disagree with that. I think that it's not a coup at all. I think Joe Biden, he's unfit to lead as a future president, so he stepped down. There's no coup involved. Of course, that's Mr. Thomas Massey's point of view. What should happen, though, is they should have a primary and have somebody else run off. Let's say Mr. Joe Biden died. This would have to happen anyway. So I think that's the situation that you're looking at, really. Okay. All right, people. So is that a trophy for killing women? It's a guy looking at some kind of thing there. So that's my stream. Okay, so that's all I got. So I'm going to wrap it up right here. Those are some of the most pressing events that have to do with Free Palestine and that sort of stuff. I'm glad you guys watched the whole thing all the way through. Don't forget to smash the like button. You can donate via PayPal. Don't forget, also, this is supported by Live. If you're in the Trinidad and Tobago area, you can always buy Live Products. Shout out to Live Products, which you can see right here. And I wish you guys nothing but God's peace and blessings. But, I got to say it. Injustice is... It's hard for me to stomach some of this stuff. I'm not going to lie to you. And the fact that it's happening even now in real time. But the plan of action should be to show that these guys' allegiance are not to the American public, especially the federal people, but it's to these big organizations. And the more you can thread that needle and pinpoint those things and share with more people, is the more they can realize, okay, Jill Stein's probably the better candidate for now because she doesn't have all this baggage around her. And the people around her, they need to investigate them too to make sure that they're clean. And so Jill Stein needs to also realize if she must have a cabinet on hand. She must know who she's going to elect as a cabinet. And she also needs to make sure that there's security around her to protect her so that she doesn't get assassinated. Because when these agencies, these intelligence agencies, she starts to go against them, they're going to try and kill her. So that's what I got for you guys. God bless you all. Have a good afternoon. It's almost 5 o'clock. I still have other business to attend to, so I'm going to try and press on. You guys have a good one. Peace.